Hey class, it's Miss Lockridge, your new first grade teacher. I am so excited about all that we're going to do this year in this classroom, and I didn't want you to have the first day of school and me not be there. So I asked Miss Birch if it was okay if I made a video because I have a really special way that I like to teach the classroom rules. You've probably heard of rules before, like don't cross the street without looking both ways, or don't run in the hall. But Miss Lockridge's rules are really different because they're fun, they're easy to follow, and you're gonna remember them the rest of your life. Here's why. I love to have funny hand motions and different things we're gonna do, but for you to be able to do that, you have to learn two things first. Number one, you have to learn how to do hands and eyes. So it's kind of like when I say class, class, and you have to say yes, yes. When I say hands and eyes, you have to go hands and eyes. That means your eyes are on me and your hands are in your lap. So let's practice. Hands and eyes. You do it. Hands and eyes. That's right. Okay, so the way that we do that is through this magic thing called the magic mirror. Whenever I say magic mirror like this, you have to do it too. It's kind of like playing Simon Says. So everybody put your hands down. Hands and eyes. There you go. Okay, now, magic mirror. Let's try it again. If I say it, you have to do it. Magic mirror. Are your hands up like mine? Okay, let's try it again. Magic mirror. Good. Okay, Miss Birch, if they're not getting it, make them stop. We're pretty much playing copycat. Magic mirror. Now I want you to keep doing it. Magic mirror with words. Okay, magic mirror with words. Now you're going to repeat after me, okay? Magic mirror with words. Rule number one, follow directions quickly. 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 If you're not copying me, you need to now. Rule number one, follow directions quickly. Rule number one, follow directions quickly. Now, I need your hands and eyes. Okay, if your hands are not in your lap, they need to be now, and your eyes need to be on the screen watching me. Rule number one, when I say follow directions quickly, that means do it right then. It's like if your mom says, turn off the TV. Do you wait until she has to say it again? Probably not, or your mom would be mad. Well, the same thing in here. If I say, quack like a duck, you better do it right then. If I say, okay, hands in your lap, you have to do it right then, because rule number one is to follow directions quickly. So I want you to practice that one over and over and over. If Miss Birch wants to pause the video and y'all can practice rule number one, she can do magic mirror with words. Rule number one, follow directions quickly. And you go, rule number one, follow directions quickly. Okay? If you want to pause it and practice rule one, pause it here. If not, I'm going to go to do rule number two. Magic mirror with words. Rule number two, raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number two, raise your hand for permission to speak. All of these rules are up here on the wall. We did rule number one, follow directions quickly. Rule number two, raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number two, raise your hand for permission to speak. If you need to pause it and practice rule two, that's fine. It's rule number two, raise your hand for permission to speak. Okay, so what does that rule mean? Raise my hand for permission to speak. That means I don't want a little first grader yelling, Miss Lockridge, Miss Lockridge, or Miss Birch, Miss Birch. If you need something, what should you do? You should raise your hand if you want to talk. We are not yelling across the classroom. We are not yelling at the teacher. Even if you have something important to say, everybody, let me make sure your arms work. Everybody hold up one of your arms. Everybody hold up an arm. Wave it around, wave it around. Okay, do your other arm. Do your other arm. Do both arms. Okay, hands and eyes. Okay, good. All your hands work. All your arms work. That means you can raise your hand before you start talking. We're going to practice it over and over and over. And people that raise their hand for permission to speak, they will get fuzzies to put in their fuzzy holder. Okay, so if you need to pause it and practice for rule number 1 and 2, go ahead. If not, I'm going on to rule number 3. All right, magic mirror with words. Rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Hands and eyes. Rule number 3 means the same thing as rule number 2. You can't talk without permission, and you definitely cannot get up without permission. That means you can't come to my desk. You can't go visit a friend. You can't just move around the room. This is really, really important right now because of the coronavirus. You have to stay in your spot unless Miss Lockridge or Miss Birch tell you otherwise. So if you need to get up, if there's something really important, show me what you should do. Everybody's hand should be up because you know you have to raise your hand for permission to speak. And also rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Okay, now let's review. I want you to repeat after me, okay? Magic mirror with words. Rule number 1, follow directions quickly. Rule number 2, raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Okay, let's do that again. Magic mirror with words. Rule number 1, follow directions quickly. Rule number 2, raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Okay, good job. Everybody give yourself a round of applause. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause. Now, hands and eyes. Okay, we only have 2 more rules. Remember, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Now we're going to do rule number 4. Ready? Everybody get your mirror ready. Let's make sure you're listening to me. Magic mirror. You should be doing what I'm doing. I'm just making sure you're paying attention. Are you doing what I'm doing? Okay, magic mirror with words. Rule number 4, make smart choices. Rule number 4, make smart choices. Rule number 4, make smart choices. Good. Okay, rule number 4, make smart choices. That means do the right thing. You know what that means. Like, if I'm out on the playground and somebody's throwing rocks, should I pick up a rock and throw it too? No, because we're going to follow rule number 4, which is make smart choices. And don't worry, we're going to talk a lot more about smart choices, but I still have one more rule, and it is my favorite rule, the best rule. Are you ready? Magic mirror with words. Rule number 5, keep your dear teacher happy. Rule number 5, keep your dear teacher happy. Rule number 5, keep your dear teacher happy. Okay, hands and eyes. You do it. Hands and eyes. This rule is the most important rule because all day, every day, your job is to make me happy. Your teacher right now is Miss Birch. If Miss Birch is not happy, that means you've broken rule number 5. So you have to make sure. That is the most important rule. It's rule 5. Keep your dear teacher happy. Because if your teacher's happy, we're going to have a better day. Okay? So, I'm going to go through the rules one more time. I want you to repeat after me. I'm going to go a little bit faster. But Miss Birch knows how to do it. And if you guys want to practice without the video, that's fine too. You can watch this video every day until I come back. And we'll keep working on them when I come back. Okay, here we go. Magic mirror with words. Sorry, I had a cough. Magic mirror with words. Rule number 1, follow directions quickly. Rule number 1, follow directions quickly. Rule number 2, raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number 2, raise your hand for permission to speak. Rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Rule number 3, raise your hand to leave your seat. Rule number 4, make smart choices. Rule number 4, make smart choices. And rule number 5, keep your dear teacher happy. Rule number 5, keep your dear teacher happy. Hands and eyes. Okay, you're done. Now go practice those rules. Talk about those rules. Talk about how we make good, smart choices. How do we make our teacher happy? And I will see you next week. Have a good day.